still ready? We're gonna give him a proper war. I can hear you. Louder, louder. Here it comes, boys.
Hi guys, so in this video I'm going to show how I built an Ork Stompa only using Warhammer 40k Sprues, and obviously a little bit of glue and some paint. So the first thing to do is to grab a whole bunch of sprues, and these ones, funnily enough, had loads of orcs and vehicles on them. And then I printed off a couple of reference photos just to give me an idea of the rough sort of size that I'm going to go for and the shape and all that. And I also went to a couple of Warhammer forums just to find out the rough size of the Ork Stompa, just so I could roughly build this to the right scale it should be. So like I did with the battle wagon, the first thing I'm going to do on this one is to build the framework. And as the Stompa is fairly round, so is my framework going to be round. So I'm using this Ork plane diorama that I built. There was a video showing how I've made this, go and check that one out guys. And obviously this is the perfect size to make for the bottom part of the framework. And then it's a case of getting down to cutting up the sprues, trying to get as many long lengths as I can, and cutting off all the nibbly knobbly bits. Then once I've got quite a lot of long bits, I can then get down to making the framework. So starting with this bottom layer, so it's not going to be completely round, it's going to be made up with lots of shorter lengths, which will then all be glued together. This is where I should have paid more attention at school to maths, as I probably could have worked out what length each one of these pieces should be. But failing that, I'll just cut up a rough size that I need, and I'm going to eyeball it, and basically I'm going to make them fit. And then I'll just need to cut each sprue at a slight angle, just so when I glue them together, they're almost like a flat edge touching another flat edge. Give or take, as again, this angle probably could have worked out if I was only good at maths. But as this is built by orcs, I'm getting in the right mind frame and I'm building it like an orc. So there's no measuring twice, cutting once here. This really is cut it, bodge it, bash it, and glue it. So there's the bottom layer done. I'm going to do 3 colour layers to this. So it's going to have a bottom, top, and a middle. So I'm using this disc for the middle bit, and again, just drawing around it. And cutting up sprues to fit in. So for this section, obviously it's going to have the same amount of sprues as the outer section. They're just going to be that little bit shorter. And again, just place them in the right place, trim off the edges, and then glue together. And then finally the top part, again, which I'm going to use another sort of circle, which is going to be smaller than the others. That's them all done. Now they can be removed from the paper. And we can start cutting up the supports that are going to go in between the layers, so we can start getting this thing into an actual 3D looking frame. To make this bit easier, as you can see in the background there, I've got one of those helping hands. And they certainly do help out in this kind of situation. And then basically all the supports get glued into place. And once that first layer is done, I can then go up to the top layer, again using the helping hands. These can be bought from Amazon, which is where basically anything you see here are bought from Amazon. There's a link in the description to an affiliate link that I've got. It doesn't cost you anything more, but every time you buy something, I get a couple of pence from it. And then that helps me buy more stuff to make more things for this channel. And there we go, that's the framework done. Although it does look more like the framework for a Dalek rather than a Stompa. So I'm going to change it a little bit as the Stompa's more rounded. I'm going to take another sprue, which I can kind of bend, and I'm then going to glue it to the top to the bottom, and maybe have another little support halfway in the middle. So that's the framework all done. Now I can get onto the bit about putting panels all over this. Apologies for the quality of the video you're going to see over the next few bits. Somehow I forgot to record a few stages. Basically, you may have been following me doing this as a live stream. And throughout the live stream, obviously I was meant to be filming every little bit I was doing. But sometimes I got carried away, chatting away with everyone. And there's a few bits I didn't film. And somehow these bits seem to get escaped. So I'm actually using footage from the live stream. So again, apologies for the poor quality, but it does give you an idea of what I was doing. If you haven't yet seen it guys, there is a video out showing how I make these panels. And there we go, it's all covered in large panels. Later on I will cover it in smaller panels. So the next thing to work on is the head. And I'm making this separate from the body just because I wanted the head to be able to turn a little bit, so it can like look left and right. So pretty much the same method as before. I'm going to make a framework up for the head, again using lots of sprues cut up to small sections and then glued together. So I'm going to cover the head in this one big panel. And again, there's no proper measuring out here. I'm just doing it by eye, lining things up and drawing a couple of lines here and there. So I made this panel about 7 hours ago, so it still bends really nicely. Pretty much it takes about 24 hours for these panels to go back to being rock hard sheets of plastic. As I want the head to be able to sit on the body and move, I'm going to put this collar around the top part of the body. That way the head won't fall off, but it'll still be able to spin round within the collar. And there we go, there's one head in place with some menacing looking teeth. Well, I think these teeth are a bit too long, as when I get the eyes on this head, they're going to be in the way. So later on I will cut these down a bit. And I've also made this front panel that can be taken off, just because I want to be able to put an Ork inside, as though he's the controller. So it's coming along nicely now, and now I can start adding more bits on, like these shoulder pads. So I'm making his eyes up, and as you can see, one eye is kind of like going to be closed as though it's been punched or he's winking. And with the other one, at the moment he's got a flat piece in there. But I want to try and make a little indentation. And the best way to do that is obviously to heat it up. And then poke it with a metal pokey thing. And there we go, I think that's come out pretty good. As I said, I think these teeth are definitely too long, so I'm going to trim them down. And the great thing with these panels made of sprues, because they're so thin, so about 2mm, they're so easy to cut, and you can just use normal scissors. And there we go, the dentist is in the house and hasn't done a too bad job of this. The bill's in the post. The other good thing with these panels is you can make easy rivets using them. Again, in the video showing how I made the panels, I do go through this little bit of how I make the rivets. And simply it's just using this little hole punch. And then the rivets are just simply glued in place. So I think these rivets have come out really well. They're pretty much the same sort of size throughout all of them. And they were so simple and easy to make. So now I'm just going to cut out loads and loads of smaller panels to stick over the larger ones. And again, this is so easy to do using scissors. And it's a good job it's easy to make all these rivets. And I must have used a good 200, 300 maybe even more on the whole of this Stompa. The other good thing with these panels is they can be rolled and manipulated into any kind of like shape you want. And in this case I'm going to wrap some around some pens, just because I can use these for chimney stacks, the exhaust pipes, and even part of the gun later on. So I'm going to build another little bit of a framework on the back, kind of like a backpack kind of thing. And this is obviously going to house all the engine and mechanical kind of bits, as well as like the furnace and the exhaust and all that sort of stuff. Basically lots of gubbins. So basically get the panels on. And then I can get back to filling in all the extra little areas with some more little panels and lots more rivets. So now on to making the feet. Again, I've got a couple of reference photos I'm using. They're fairly basic in design, but again I'm going to make a kind of a framework for these, as I want these to be fairly solid and chunky, just because they're going to take the weight of the Stompa. So cutting up lots more sprues, as well as all the nibbly knobbly bits off, so I can get some nice long lengths here. And then basically I'm following the thing that I've just drawn, put them in place, and then I'll be gluing them all together. And there we go, it's basically easier just gluing on loads of the sprues and then cutting the excess off afterwards. So I want to make some wires, but again I'm going to make these out of the sprues. But in this case I'm going to make them out of the ooey gooey spruey stuff. And it's simply a case of pushing it into this syringe. And then I can just squeeze the stuff out. And the best way to do this so you don't get any flat edges is to basically squeeze it out and then attach the end onto a coat hanger. So that way they can just hang there. And then basically I did this quite a few times to get lots of different lengths. But the good thing is they all pretty much come out the same thickness. And again, it's just a case of leaving them now. So in about 7 hours I'll be able to use these and still bend them into the shape I wanted. So I've cut an area off the front just because I wanted to give him a kind of like a Darth Vader chest panel. So I've got somewhere to attach the feet. I put some more supports underneath the framework, and I'm going to cut out a big panel that I can then stick on that, and I can stick the feet to this panel. And there we go, there he is with his feet. One's fairly lifted up and he's fairly secure. So now I'm going to make the belly cannon, and for that I'm going to use a panel that was wrapped around one of my paint bottles, and then this just gets cut to size, and then I cut a smaller one to go inside that. And there we go, one fully functioning, kinda, belly cannon. So now on to making the weapons for the arms. Again, I've done a couple of rough drawings here, just so I know roughly what I want to try and make. And obviously one of them is going to be a huge big chainsaw. And again, cutting out the rough panel shape, and then using sprues on the inside, so there'll be the teeth. And then to attach the weapons to the body, I've taken loads of sprues, glued them together, and then glued them onto the sides of the body. And then I can just attach the weapons to the parts of the arms. So the other weapon is going to be a large drum gun, and again I've drawn a few rough pictures of what I'm going to use. So when making the weapons, I had looked at loads and loads of Stompas to see what kind of weapons they had, and the ones that I liked best were done by Iron Dog Studios. You may well have seen his Stompa already. It was made out of a potato head toy, and it looks awesome. I just love the weapons he used so much, I've copied them. So now the weapons are done and attached, the last thing to kind of do is his backpack, where I've got the large chamber for the exhaust and the little sort of chimney stack kind of thing, and then just adding a few other little bits on for details. And there we go, that's him pretty much done. So I'm pretty pleased with how he's turned out, especially considering every part of this is made from sprues. And now one of my favourite parts, getting the primer on, as I really think this just ties the build in so much, especially when you've got panels and bits and pieces of a different colour. Once it's primed, it looks uniformed all the way over, and you get a good idea of roughly what it looks like, what you've made. As I don't play Warhammer yet, I don't really have any sort of clan ties at all, so I'm painting this big guy in copper, and then I'm going to add some oxidisation to him by just painting on some teal afterwards. So the first thing I'm going to do is to add some black wash, just to dirty him up a little bit, and to add a few shadows into the nooks and crannies. But as I don't want him looking too dirty, once I've applied loads of black wash to an area, I'll then go over and just dab it a little bit with this towel just to remove any excess from the tops. But it'll still leave plenty of that dark wash in all the cracks and crevices. And then there's a few parts of the build that I'm going to paint in silver. And then the chainsaw I'm going to do in the black and yellow stripes, just as like a warning, don't get too near. And then to finish him off, I say with the oxidisation, I'm basically going to paint some teal in lots of the areas where it's a bit darker, but just so it doesn't look too harsh, I'm then going to go over and kind of dry brush it. And there we go, this is how he's ended up. As I say, I'm pretty pleased with how he's come out. Paint job's not too bad, and I'm pleased with the build. So definitely one happy chappy. If you guys have enjoyed this build, let me know. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment telling me what you thought of this video or what you might like to see me make next. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that like button and turn on the notification bell to be informed of all the new videos that I produce. As always, I want to say a big thank you to all my patrons for helping support the channel, as it really does mean a lot to me, as it's helping me buy more and more pieces for me to use in builds, as well as getting better equipment for me to film with, edit with, and to do live streams with. It'd be great if you could share this, guys, on any kind of social media, in Discord, Reddit, any Facebook groups, anywhere basically. There is another video on the screen, guys, don't forget to give that a click and go and check that out and see more of what I do. Okay guys, that's it. Bye for now.
Hey boys, is you ready? We're gonna give him a proper war. I can't hear you. Louder, louder.